Good evening, everyone. The meeting is in session. Welcome to the Standing Committee on Veterans Affairs, meeting number 2, pursuant to the order that was adopted on Tuesday, December 14, 2021. The committee will be looking at a briefing session that will be given by the Minister of Veterans Affairs, Lawrence MacAulay. He will be accompanied by Mr. Paul Ledwell, his Deputy Minister, and also the deputy ministers and representatives of the department will stay for the second hour.
Format. Pursuant to the House Order of November 25th, 2021, members are attending in person in the room and remotely using the Zoom application. The proceedings will be made available via the House of Commons website. So, you are aware the webcast will always show the person speaking rather than the entirety of the committee. Today's meeting is also taking place in a webinar format. Webinars are public committees meeting and are available only to members, their staff, and witnesses. Members enter immediately as active participants. All functionalities for active participants remain the same. Staff will be non-active participants and can therefore only view the meeting in gallery view. I would like to take this opportunity to remind all participants to this meeting that screenshots or taking photos of your screen is not permitted. Compte tenu de la situation.
Given the present pandemic situation, and in the light of the recommendations made by the health authorities and also the directive issued by the BOIE on October 19, 2021, to remain in good health and to remain safe, everybody must participate in the meeting, but must maintain a physical distance 2 meters apart, must wear a mask at all times in the room, and you should do so when you are sitting in your place as well. You have to have a good hygiene for your hands. Please use the sanitizer that is supplied at the door. And as chairman, I will apply these measures throughout the duration of the meeting. I thank you all in advance for your cooperation.
An orderly meeting. I would like to outline a few rules to follow. Members and witnesses may speak in the official language of their choice. Interpretation services are available for this meeting. You have the choice at the bottom of your screen or either floor, English, or French. If interpretation is lost, please inform me immediately and I will ensure interpretation is properly restored before resuming the proceedings. The raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen can be used at any time if you wish to speak or alert the chair. For members participating in person, proceed as you usually would when the whole committee is meeting in person in a committee room. Keep in mind the Board of Internal Economy guidelines for mask use and health protocols. Le greffier est en chambre, donc avec les personnes qui sont là.
The clerk is here in the room, and with the persons who are assisting him will indicate to me your needs.
I recognize you by name. If you are on the video conference, please click on the microphone icon to unmute yourself. Those in the room, your microphone will be controlled as normal by the proceedings and verification officer. When speaking, please speak slowly and clearly. And when you are not speaking, your mic should be on mute. A reminder that all comments by members and witnesses should be addressed through the chair. En ce qui concerne la liste des personnes qui prendront
With respect to those who will be speaking, the clerk and I will do our very best to maintain the order of all members who will have the floor, whether they're in person or remote. I would like now to welcome our witnesses. We have the honor of receiving this evening the Honorable Lawrence Macaulay, who is Minister of Veterans Affairs and Associate Minister of National Defense, and Mr. Paul Ledwell, who is the Deputy Minister for Veterans Affairs. In view of the fact that there was a vote, we've started this meeting, this 2-hour meeting at 19 hours or at 7:25. So we will finish our meeting at 9:25 this evening. I will keep a close eye on the time, but I will indicate to members that when they have the floor, they have 1 minute left to speak, and when their time has run out, I will indicate that and ask them to conclude as quickly as possible. So with that, Minister, Mr. Lawrence Macaulay, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, it's a pleasure to be back here at your committee to talk about what our government is doing for veterans and their families. Since I became minister back in 2019, this committee has done important work in helping us reduce wait times, finding ways to support veterans organizations, and making sure my department is running as smoothly as it can. I want to congratulate you on your election, Mr. Chair, and I know that you care deeply about the folks who serve our country in uniform. It's also important to note, Mr. Chair, that today is the first day of Black History Month. From the Western Front to operations here at home and around the world for more than a century, Black Canadians have always been there, and we thank them today. Before I begin, I would like to take a moment to comment on some of the unfortunate things we saw in the past few days in Ottawa. Everyone has the right to protest in this country, but to see the disrespect shown to the National War Memorial, the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and the National Aboriginal Veterans Monument was completely disgusting. The National War Memorial represents all those who served, fought, and died for our country. A Canadian soldier was murdered on the very spot, and there were people climbing and celebrating on the tomb of another. To see that from the protesters was shocking, disgusting, and a slap on the face to every Canadian veteran. I hope we never, ever see anything like that again in this country. And now, before I take questions, I would like to provide a few remarks. I know, Mr. Chair, that some veterans are frustrated with the amount of time it takes to get a decision on disability benefit applications. I want them and all of you on the committee to know that reducing processing times is our #1 priority. Over the past several years, we've hired hundreds of staff, made improvements to the application process, and simplified decision-making for some medical conditions. We're making more decisions, and the backlog has been getting smaller. This includes making progress on Francophone applications. We've opened an office in Montreal with 30 people working exclusively on French applications, and we have an additional 5 bilingual teams.
Excuse me.
We've made good
Minister,
progress.
Excuse me, Minister. We have a problem with your microphone. Can you, maybe the technician, a little bit lower, please?
How was that?
Yeah, let me ask the clerk with the technician if it's okay. Just say a few
How is that?
words, please.
I'd like to ask the clerk if the microphone is in the right place. Can you hear me, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr.
Yes.
Minister, I can hear you. I just want to make sure the interpreters say that you may put your mic between your nose and your upper lip if possible.
Is that where it is now? Is that okay?
I will ask the interpreters if they can see me. If you
We're
can,
making more decisions and the backlog has been getting smaller. Is that okay?
could you lower a little your microphone, please? And continue
We have
speaking.
been making more decisions and the backlog has been getting smaller.
A little,
we hear?
a little lower again, sorry.
How is that? Can you hear that?
Lower again, sorry.
Gonna be below my chin.
The interpreters asked me to tell you if you can lower your microphone again. Apologies for that.
No problem. Is that okay?
Can you
Oh, down
just
here.
put it a little further than your mouth?
How would that be?
Great,
Is
thank
that
you.
better?
Yes, thank you very much for your patience, Minister.
Well, good to
Okay.
get it right.
Go. You have more than 2 minutes, Minister. You can go now. Thanks. Thank you.
We're making more decisions and the backlog has been getting smaller. This includes making progress on Francophone applications. And we've opened offices in Montreal with 30 people working exclusively on French applications. And we have an additional 5 bilingual teams. We're making great progress, but there's certainly more to do. As you may know, the department has already received approval to extend some 168 backlog staff, which should help us continue to make good progress on the backlog. We've committed to making the investment we need to make, and we will continue to focus on this vitally important issue. I also want to point out, Mr. Chair, that budget 2021 included some items that affected the veterans community as it's related to benefits, including a program that will immediately cover mental health care costs for veterans with PTSD or depressive or anxiety disorders, while their disability benefit application is being processed. The changes to these regulations are currently out for consultation in the Canada Gazette, and we expect this to be fully implemented by April the 1st. Mr. Chair, I know another area of concern here relates to case management. Our case managers make sure that veterans with more complex needs receive the support they need. It's absolutely vital that we're lucky to have the folks to work on this in Veterans Affairs, but I know they're dealing with backlogs and workloads that are too heavy. Over the last few years, the department has considerably increased the number of case managers in order to meet the increased need of our veterans. As of last November, there were 476 of them in the department. We promised during the campaign that we would hire more, and we will. And to close, Mr. Chair, since forming government 6 years ago, we have invested more than $11 billion in new programs and services for veterans. We've hired the much needed staff to ensure veterans are getting the services that they need. And we're going to continue to do everything we can to make things better for the folks who served with our flag on their shoulder. There's certainly still a lot more to do. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much, Minister. And now we're going for the first round of questions. And I start with the first Vice President, is Mr. Frank Caputo. The floor is yours for 6 minutes, Mr. Caputo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First off, may I remove my mask? And second, MP Valdez has her hand up.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Chair, I would like to give notice to this motion that I put forward. and it's just noticed for this motion, and here's the text. That given the shameful and disrespectful behaviors shown by protesters at the National War Memorial, the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and the National Aboriginal Veterans Monument, the Standing Committee on Veterans Affairs undertake an urgent study to review these actions, and that witnesses include the Ottawa Police Services, the Royal Canadian Legion, the Assembly of First Nations Veterans Council, and government officials from Veterans Affairs Canada, the Canadian Armed Forces, and Public Services and Procurement Canada. Thank you.
Merci. Écoutez, Madame Valdez.
Thank you, Ms. Valdez. I have to say that we did receive your motion, but as you know, that according to our rules, normally it takes 48 hours for the motion, for notice of motion. So we note this motion, but according to the standing orders, we will submit the motion to the subcommittee that will act upon it and come back to this committee with a motion. All right, thank you. Now let's pick up where we left off. And as I said, Mr. Caputo has 6 minutes to ask his questions of the minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Minister, thank you for joining us. I intend to ask you questions about caseloads and backlogs. Minister, you would agree with me that it's important, obviously, that we provide timely service for veterans and their families, correct?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, I'm sorry, Minister, is there a lag between us?
I hope can you hear me, sir? Frank, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. There's just a little bit of a lag, I believe.
Okay.
Minister, part of providing the best care possible is to provide this care within an appropriate amount of time, correct?
Of course, that is correct, Mr. Caputo, and that's exactly what we intend to do, and that's exactly what I have been working on since I became Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Part of the reason I'm sorry, Mr. Minister.
Now, as you know, we've made a number of investments in this area in order to speed up the application process, and we will continue to make sure that we put additional benefits in place to make sure that this is done in a timely manner. We have decreased the backlog, but as you know, there's much more to do,
Minister,
and we
if you
will
could just
continue
please,
to do it.
if you could make your response proportional to the duration of my question, I would appreciate that, please, with respect. Minister, you'd acknowledge that when caseloads get too high, it can lead to burnout, correct, for workers?
Well, of course, I would have to let the department indicate what burnout has taken place. I understand on caseworkers there has not been much of a change. In fact, I believe in the last year there has been less sick time than there was the year previous. So that's basically where we are. But you're right, we have to work on more caseworkers, and we've indicated quite clearly that we would.
Okay, and I wasn't actually going there, Minister. I was just asking you about that basic proposition about burnout, because when burnout happens, it puts more pressure on other people, which can lead them to burnout. Yes or no? You agree with that, yes?
I certainly agree that burnout causes a difficulty for any organization and any part of government or any business. You have to make sure that they have a proper workplace, and we are doing that at Veterans Affairs Canada. Absolutely, we're doing that. We're making sure that caseworkers, if they need help or assistance, that they get it. Now, I know the ratio is not right, but we're working full time on that, and I think you're aware of that.
Now, Minister, you mentioned that the caseload was getting smaller. What has been the reduction in caseload average wait times in the past 6 months?
Well, what I can tell you is over the period of time from it, the caseload was at 22,000 and it was reduced by about 40%. That's exactly where we are.
Okay. And
No, not exactly. I don't want to mislead you. You know, it's not exact.
I take your point. And is it your intent that those case numbers continue to fall?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay.
We have to continue to work on the caseloads and on the personnel in order to make sure that the caseloads and the ratio is into an appropriate manner.
Now, there were people that were hired recently in order to deal with the overabundance of applications, correct?
You're right.
Okay. And those people, a number of them were hired on terms, as in they were set to be hired for a specific period of term that would expire, correct?
Well, full-time for a period of time, sir, I believe is the right terminology, to make
Yes.
sure that they were well-trained and able to do the job. You just don't walk into Veterans Affairs and become a caseloader. There's work to be done in order to make sure they're ready to serve veterans, and Veterans Affairs Canada makes sure that that is done.
Certainly, and you would acknowledge that many of these caseworkers haven't been extended past next month, correct?
They are, of course, what I've indicated quite clearly, and that we will be that we are committed to investing in additional resources in this area, and that's what we continue to do. We indicated that in our platform, and I fully expect that that's what will take place. As I indicated from the start, we will make sure that we continue to work on the backlog to make sure it's appropriately reduced.
Minister, I would just ask that you keep your answer proportionate to my question, please. Now, with respect to the caseworkers, though, you agree that no caseworkers, there is no agreement and no commitment at this time to keep a number of the caseworkers on past March of 2022, correct?
I can tell you, sir, that I indicated, as I have indicated to you, that we have indicated that the additional resources will be acquired to make sure that we work on the backlog and make sure we continue to reduce it. I've said that, and I will continue to say that, and we will continue to reduce it, as we have.
With respect, Minister, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, will you extend the caseworkers past March 2022, yes or no?
Mr. Caputo, I'm not the Minister of Finance, but you know the history from this point on. You know the way government works, and what I have to do is indicate, if you want me to answer the question, the fact is we've made the commitment, and we will follow through with our commitment.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Mr. Caputo. And now for 6 minutes, we have Richie Valdez. You have the floor. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, Minister McCauley and Mr. Ledwell. I appreciate the opportunity to ask you both questions. Minister, my first two questions are in reference to your mandate letter, which indicates that you will ensure the benefits system and services are responsive to and meets the need of underrepresented veterans, including women, LGBTQ, racialized, and Indigenous veterans.
Michael, you got it over there, please.
Yes, go ahead, Mrs. Ritchie.
Yes, so Minister, I'm just going to repeat my questions. So the first two questions are in reference to your mandate letter, which indicates...
Give me that sheet over there, Michael. Please give me those sheets.
Yeah, Minister, it's because your microphone is open, so... Okay, go ahead with the questions. Go ahead.
No, I just want to make sure I've said the question clearly, if you don't mind, guys. Sorry, apologies. So, Minister, my first two questions are in reference to your mandate letter, which indicates that you will ensure the benefit system and services are responsive to and meets the needs of underrepresented veterans, including women, LGBTQ, racialized, and Indigenous veterans. Can you comment on what progress has been made thus far and what work may lay ahead? Thank you.
Your mic, Minister. Go ahead. That's okay. Once again. Okay.
It's on. The mic is on now, isn't it? It's on.
It's on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Very much appreciate your question. And as you know, we had one of the first things that happened when I became Minister of Veterans Affairs was to have a conference on women and LGBTQ veterans. This was held, I think it was either 2 or 3 different meetings we had in this area, and it was well attended from right across the country. It is vitally important, a very important question, and it gives the office a chance to focus on the issues that women LGBT veterans face on gender equality, diversity, and inclusion for all veterans. And it's so vitally important. We have heard from many women veterans forums to hear, and we want to hear from any female veterans. We're wide open to this, and I think there's a different way that you have to serve the different issues for different veterans, and that's in fact why we had this meeting for the Office of Women and LGBTQ Veterans, in order to make sure that the department understood basically what different issues women and members of the LGBTQ people were facing, to make sure that they were able to deal with that. More needs to be done in this area, and I was pleased to see that my mandate letter included ensuring the benefit system and services are responsive to meet the needs of the underrepresented veterans, including women, LGBTQ veterans, racialized and indigenous veterans. Just to make sure that people that are not properly represented have a better chance in order to have their issues addressed with Veterans Affairs. That is what we have done, and that's what we will continue to do. And with these conferences, I have indicated that they will be held on a yearly basis. Now, the last 1 or 2 had to be held virtually, but they were well responded to, and I think it's fair to say that the department received a lot of very valuable information in order to deal with these clients. And I think that's basically where we are on this issue.
Thank you, Minister. In December 2020, the Assembly of First Nations announced the creation of a First Nations Council. Do you have any outreach strategy updates to veterans or Indigenous veterans and their families living in northern communities?
Yes, again, I appreciate that question. As you're fully aware, there's much more being done in the northern areas for veterans, and also with First Nations and other groups. We have the Métis organization, for example. We put $30 million into a program just to make sure that they were fully able to address the problems that they have within the Métis organizations, and to make sure that they were could put together programs to make sure that the veterans and what they did would be so fully appreciated, like to make sure that we have ceremonies to show what an important role they had played. As I indicated from the start, so many different groups of people have been involved in freedom and democracy in this country, and it's so important, vitally important, that every group is recognized and we pay tribute to them because of what they have done, so that you and I can sit here and discuss the issues. That's what we're trying to do at Veterans Affairs Canada, and that's what we will continue to do. Appreciate your question.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, MP Valdez. So now for 6 minutes, nous avons Monsieur.
We have Mr. Desilets, the second Vice Chair. Will now have the opportunity to question the Minister. Go ahead, please. Thank you very much, Chair. Mr. Minister, it's a pleasure to see you here once again and to hear you. Listen, as I said during our last meeting, I will deal with the line of questioning that I used the other time, because I think it's necessary to do so. We've talked about backlogs. We've talked about disabilities, particularly since Francophones don't necessarily benefit from the same services as the Anglophones do. I heard you in your opening remarks say that that was going to change, but on May 10, you said that that was going to change. I'm still expecting figures that I haven't received. On November 22nd, I spoke to Mr. Harris, who is a very, very nice person, just like you. And I asked for figures on November 22nd. On December the 2nd, I didn't get anything. I still don't have anything. So can I get some figures? Can I have some tangible figures about this? I'd like to say I like you very much and bravo, congratulations. You're doing a lot. You're doing very well because the backlogs dropped from some 21,000 cases to some 9,000 cases. But if it's a fantastic success, great. But I'd like to have the figures. And then we can move on to another question, another subject. You have the floor, Minister.
Thank you very much, Luke, and I appreciated the conversation that we had and the direction that you gave me. I appreciated that very much. And of course, I can give you some stats. In 2021-22, for the average turnaround time was for females was 36.5 weeks. No, the average turnaround time was 36.5 weeks for female applications and 33 weeks for male applications. For comparison, in 2021, the average turnaround time, which was 43.2 weeks for females and 36.3 weeks for male applications. Now, of course, we discussed the Francophone issue, and I addressed it when I spoke. But in 2021, 2022, the average turnaround time was 32.2 weeks for Anglophone applications and 41.1 weeks for Francophone applications. For comparison, in
Monsieur le ministre, j'ose vous couper.
I just have to cut in here, Minister. Forgive me. I hear you, and I've heard you about that before, and I've heard from Mr. Harris. But is it possible for the committee to have those figures? You're giving them to us orally. But I'm a visual type of person. I need to see things. I need to read things. I need to see the progression of matters. So could you commit to the committee that you will give us the figures in writing?
Luke, yes, I will. Yes, I will. But it's important to note that in both figures that I gave you, both in the women's and male and female, and Anglophone and Francophone, it is getting better. It is not where it should be, but we will continue to work.
Magnificent. Great. Great. We both want the same thing, Minister. We want the situation to get to be improved for Francophones, for women, because when you're a woman, and a Francophone, well, it can mean trouble. So please give us the figures so that I can be sure that everything is the way it should be. Everything is correct in terms of the figures, and my colleagues benefit from that too.
Luke, the answer is yes, and I would like the deputy to give you just a minute here on this very issue.
Merci, Monsieur le Ministre.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you, Mr. Desilets, for your question. Doubtless, we are ready to share the exact figures with you. We've had a lot of encouragement in terms of working with this strategy with respect to women and with respect to Francophones. We're working on it, we're doing it, and we want to succeed in having results over some months' time, but certainly we will give you the figures. You please, you're making me so happy this evening. Really, we're all chasing the same goal. I have one last question for the minister. If from our basis of analysis, it is always this famous 4 months. Do you think that 4 months is a reasonable time to respond to our veterans?
Luke, what we're going to do is make sure we speed up all the process. What we have to do is make sure that our veterans are responded to and receive the benefits they're entitled to in an appropriate time. We are working towards that, but we're not there yet, and we will continue to work towards that. And you have been a major asset in helping me get there. I appreciate it. Thank you, Luke.
Merci, merci, Monsieur le Ministre. Merci.
Thank you so much, Minister, Mr. Desilets. And now we will give the floor for the next 6 minutes to Ms. Rachel Blaney. 6 minutes. Please open your mic.
So much, Chair, and I just want to express my appreciation to the Chair for the little signs that give us the timeline. I really appreciate that, so I just wanted to acknowledge that. Minister, it's always good to have you. I always enjoy this time, probably a little more than I should. But I do want to ask you about the marriage after 60 clause. You know, we've had this conversation several times. You know that I've put forward a bill because I think this is something that needs to be dealt with immediately. And I'm really curious about the reality that in the mandate letters for the minister's position in 2015 and 2017, fixing this was in the mandate letters, and then afterwards it disappeared. So I'm a little bit concerned and don't want that to get lost. You know, the reality is we worked with a veteran who had plans to get married. And when COVID hit, of course, like every other Canadian, he couldn't follow through on that until a later date. The problem is that he was going to get married when he was 59. And because of COVID, he couldn't get married until he was 60. And that means, of course, that his partner will not be able to access any pension supports after his passing. And I'm also very concerned because DND now has on their website a notice that tells members, by the way, remember that if you get married after 60, you cannot get a pension for your loved one. And here's the form to fill out so that you can get a smaller pension during this time, which means a lot of veterans are in poverty, so that your loved one can have some money when you pass on. So, you know, this is an archaic system. It's shocking that it's still in place. I'm just wondering if you could explain to me and to the veterans of this country who marry after 60 why their spouse does not deserve the supports that other members receive.
Rachel, good to see you. And thank you for all your pushing and making sure issues are brought to the forefront, and you certainly do that. And as we're always, as you're fully aware, committed to those who serve and their spouses have the support they need, and I know that you know that. And we have been working, and we still are, with Statistics Canada and the Canadian Institute for Military and Veteran Health Research to gather information about those survivors. We are working on it. We will use the results of this research to inform how best to support these survivors. The well-being of veterans and their families, as you know and I know, are so vitally important. Now, they've been doing a lot of work, and they've been doing a lot of interviewing, like Veterans Affairs has interviewed a large number of people, quite a number of people,
so sorry,
and mostly female.
Minister, I am sorry to interrupt you. I try to be as respectful as possible, but I understand that study, that work is done. And so I know that there's $150 million promised in budget 2019, the Veteran Survivor Fund. I'm just wondering, is this going to actually go out to members? I mean, this is a Band-Aid solution. For the interim, I'm hoping to see the action happen in terms of changing the pension. If you could just answer that, and then I'm going to have to cut you off again because I do have another question that I really need to get to, but please take the 30 seconds or so. Thank you, Minister.
Well, Rachel, I appreciate your You never stop for sure, and that's good. I can only tell you where we are and what we're doing, and I think you know that. And we are committed to doing all the research on this and making sure we have the appropriate information. That is where we are on this, Rachel. Thank you so much, and you won't have to interrupt me again.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Minister. You know, I want to talk about Roy Puthy Padaville. He is a veteran, and today is actually the 10th anniversary of his fight with VAC about his OSI report. You know, Mr. Speaker or Chair, through you, I just want to let the Minister know that the OSI report was incorrect and that VAC agreed that it was incorrect, but we're not willing to take the next step to say to the doctor, this is incorrect and we need you to fix it or delete this from his file so that he can move forward. This person who served our country has suffered over the last 10 years traumatically because he didn't feel recognized by the people who were supposed to protect him after he fought so hard for our country. We also know that for a year he lost his income because VAC was trying to push him into a vocational rehab program that he simply was not ready for. He had to go through a whole year without that income. And, you know, the other thing that I'm hearing from veterans, much like Roy, is that they feel like they're in an insurance agency instead of a support service for them. And his file illustrates clearly systemic issues that need to be addressed when veterans are accessing support. I'm wondering, Minister, through you, Chair, will you commit to meeting with me and Roy to discuss this? Because this is a perfect example of the trauma that some of our veterans are receiving with the service systems in place right now.
Rachel, you know that I will help you in any way I possibly can. But I think on an individual case like this, it would be better for the deputy to deal with it. Over to you, Deputy.
So is that an assurance? I've only got a few seconds left that the deputy will in fact meet with me and Roy at the very least. I would prefer if you were there, Minister, to address this issue. This is 10 years of this veteran fighting again and again to have his voice heard. And I just want to make sure that it is on the record that you will be meeting with him and I very soon.
Minister, in 15 seconds, please.
The deputy is going to respond.
An honorable member, I'd be very happy to meet with you. And if the veteran is willing to share the information from his file, I'd be very happy to sit down and go through that information as well. We understand the privacy of the matter and would want to make sure that the veteran is willing to share that.
Thank you so much, Deputy.
And Mr. Chair, could I just say that if I can and will need be there, I will be too, Rachel. I think you know that.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And the next one will be 5 minutes. And we have Mrs. Anna Roberts for 5 minutes, please. Open your mic and go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my question to the minister is, what resources does this government provide to assist veterans and their families in their transition to civilian life? Why are they not connected with Veterans Affairs immediately after leaving the service?
Thank you very much, and I appreciate your question, and it's a very important question. And I can assure you that on military basis across the country, there are Veterans Affairs staff dealing with people. What we are trying to do is to make sure that people, I believe, that when they enter the Canadian Armed Forces, that they should be told that there's a day coming when they leave the Canadian Armed Forces and to be ready for that. I think it would help an awful lot with the difficulties we have in some areas with homelessness and other difficulties with jobs. And in fact, settling into a regular lifestyle and not be in the Canadian Armed Forces. As you are fully aware, and we both know that if you're in the Canadian Armed Forces, you have a doctor, you have example, and when you come out, you likely do not have a doctor. And in this country, sometimes it's very difficult, but that's only one of the things. They need to find a job. And that's why there's so many things. We have these job fairs. But I think, first of all, your question is so important because it's the the Canadian Armed Forces personnel need to know, number one, someday they're leaving there. They will become a veteran. And to make sure they will make use of, let's say, the education fund.
So I respectfully, it leads me to my next question. So
Sure.
I don't have a lot of time, so I have a couple of questions I want to get in there. So it leads me to my next question. Healthcare services provided by each province vary. A standard national program would ensure that our veterans receive the assistance they require, such as access to mental health programs, regardless of which province they choose to live in. How will this government ensure a streamlined transition? Because my research has led me to believe, from speaking to veterans like Mr. Paul Breeze, Tom Hobbs, who has addressed this committee on numerous occasions leading back to 2008, the services that are provided are not sufficient to support our veterans. So how can we, as a nation, ask our veterans to go to war, but yet, when they leave the service, we expect the provinces to take care of them when we know that each province, and especially my research has led me to believe that one of the worst provinces, and I'm embarrassed to say that because I'm from Ontario, is lagging behind all services for the vets. So could you help me understand that?
Yeah, thank you very much. And again, an important question. And of course, you're fully aware that healthcare is under the provinces. And we want to make sure that every asset we can give to the veteran, to the Canadian Armed Forces member when he leaves the Armed Forces and becomes a civilian citizen, he's aware of what they have there. In Veterans Affairs Canada, example, the mental health benefits that we've just announced, $140 million in order to make sure that we're able to help people with PTSD and many other things. This money is available when you apply to Veterans Affairs Canada as of April the 1st. Now it's going through, it's not, we expect it will be approved and in play on April the 1st. And if you have any of these problems, you qualify for benefits, even if your application has not been reviewed, in order to make sure that they're able to have the mental health support that they need. That's one thing that the Government of Canada is doing, and I think it's a very important move in the mental health area to help our veterans.
So that takes me to my next question. I'm glad you brought that up. So research has shown that service dogs are essential to mental health and the well-being of our veterans and their families. Does this government recognize the value that service dogs provide to our veterans? When will this government implement a standard national program that allows our veterans access to service dogs? And one of the reasons that touches me very dearly is I spoke to a police officer who was a veteran and had to fight to get his service dog so that he could go to work. Now, he is limited to desk service due to his injuries from the war, and it took him years and years for a law to be implemented because every province has different laws. Do you agree that if we ask our veterans, go to war for us, give us our rights and freedoms, would you agree that this government owes them a program that no matter where they decide to live, whether it's in Newfoundland or out in Victoria, should we not, as Canadians, be responsible for them?
Okay. Minister, in quick answer, please, because the time is over. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. But of course, we realize we have an interest in the service dogs and help veterans in the mental health situations. And an example of that, in 2019, we funded the Wounded Warriors Canada for a project to expand its PTSD and service dog program. We have a number of pilot projects in order to make sure how this will work. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister and Madame Roberts. Et là, maintenant, je passe la parole à Monsieur Terence Rogers.
And now the floor goes to Mr. Terence Rogers, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure that sounded great.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good? Okay. Hello, and it's good to see you, Minister. I'm new to this committee and Veterans Affairs, and I'm really pleased to be appointed to be a part of a great committee to work on behalf of the veterans that served our country and to represent some of the veterans that exist in my riding and living in my particular riding of Bonavista, Beer and Trinity. Minister, in last year's budget, we invested an additional $15 million in the Veteran and Family Wellbeing Fund. This is a crucial program that our government introduced in 2018 to help fund grassroots veterans organizations across Canada. So we've recently made some announcements on funding with this money from the last budget. Could you tell us about some of these organizations that are getting help through this latest round of funding and what work they're doing with or in support of veterans across the country?
Thank you very much, Terence, and good to see you too. I would have to say the Veterans Family and Wellbeing Fund is something that I'm very proud of. A great program. It's something that our government introduced, and it's having an impact on the lives of veterans and their families. And it's helping a lot of great organizations that wish to help veterans. I'm certainly very pleased, Terence, that we were able to add an additional $15 million to this program last year's budget. And the rollout has been well accepted in many organizations. We know some veterans feel more comfortable when to turn to their peers in grassroots organizations. That's why it's so important that we work with these organizations, and they do great work. And just for an example, Helmets to Hard Hats will receive $700,000 to assist women and LGBTQ2 veterans in skilled trade careers. And that, Terence, as you know, can tie into our education program, which has been put in place. This $40,000 and $80,000, this $80-some thousand a year just to upgrade your education so you're more valuable to industry. The Ottawa Intercity Ministry will receive $175,000 to address the rise in social isolation. All the difficulty turns that people went through during this pandemic. That gives this intercity ministry a chance to work so hard with that. And Homes for Heroes Foundation in Calgary will receive $250,000 to support the Calgary Veterans Village. And I was there, Terence. I was at that village. And it was so wonderful. People that just left the armed services having some difficulty, but an example, one family was just coming into the tiny homes, and they were going to move into their own home. He had a full-time job, she had a job, and they're right back into society. That's what we want to be able to do. It's valuable for the veteran, and it's valuable for our economy. We have many others like Vets Canada, Wounded Warriors, Veterans Transition Network, Sunnybrook, you heard of, great place, and many, many more. There's so many great things that this program has done and give veterans a chance to become really what they want to be in civilian life. Valuable for both sides. Thank you for the question, and I appreciate it.
Your microphone.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you for that, because I appreciate your passion and your compassion for our veterans and how you've delved into this portfolio and worked so hard to make life a lot better for the veterans that we represent. And Mr. Chair, I know time is short, so I'll just finish at that point. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Minister.
Okay. So no intervention from the minister, so we can go on. Thank you.
Yes,
I would just like to add the importance of that program. I think it's not the largest amount of money in the program, but it's the veterans and the family and veterans program has done so much in order to give the veterans. They feel so good about themselves. All you have to do is see that in reality to realize what this has done for veterans. As I said to Terence, it's valuable for the veteran and it's valuable for our economy.
Merci, Monsieur le Ministre.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you so much. And now we will move on to 2.5 minutes for Mr. Desilets. You have the floor. Yes, thank you. My mic was open, and I said that I had some difficulty, the difficulty being that your last sentence, Mr. Macaulay, I wasn't able to hear. But with respect to mental health, can you give me some quick answers? Will you be able to give money without conditions to the provinces?
Ben là, prenez pas 2 minutes à répondre.
Well, don't take 2 minutes before you answer.
What I've indicated quite clearly now, listen, Luke, the fact is we're committed to making sure that in the mental health area, there's $140 million there. If you apply to Veterans Affairs Canada and you have PTSD or many other mental health or addiction problems, you immediately can start receiving benefits. Now, it takes a while, as we know, for the applications to be processed. But in the mental health area, they do not have to wait. Thank you.
Excellent, merci.
Excellent, thank you. It's very interesting what you've just said. Just to follow that particular file, it's very clear, and I appreciate the information. Mental health, suicide, these are the issues that are of great concern to me. Another question. You don't have to answer necessarily. Will you be able to give these monies to the provinces with or without conditions?
Luke, thank you very much. What we do is give it directly to the veterans. When they apply to Veterans Affairs Canada, let's say if you have an addiction or PTSD, immediately you start receiving. You don't have to get the receipt and hold it.
Donc,
I understand. No problem. So there is federal management. I have no problem with that. But a colleague pointed out earlier that it was something that was extremely important for me, and I'm sure we'll talk about it again, the linkage between Veterans Affairs and national defense. Regular calls I receive about files that aren't transferred, about long waiting times, what one doctor has found, and so on. Mr. Desilets, your time is up. In 5 seconds, Minister, if you have a real quick answer.
Luke, over the years, files have been a problem. I think it's much better under control today, but it is a problem. Even the veteran themselves, sometimes if they got hurt a bit, they won't report that. It costs down the line.
Thank you, Minister. Well, listen, I will now welcome Ms. Ashton to the committee. She is replacing Ms. Blaney. Welcome. You have 2.5 minutes for your intervention. You have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Chair.
Every year we take a day to remember our veterans, Remembrance Day. We might remember them on the anniversary of a conflict or a battle, but we don't do enough to recognize our veterans' sacrifices. And after what we saw this weekend with the disturbing and deeply disrespectful actions at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and at the National War Memorial, it is appropriate that today we talk about how we can recognize the valor and sacrifice of our veterans now. Other countries have recognized this and have reviewed the citations given to veterans who ought to be appropriately recognized for their valor. But here in Canada, we have not done that appropriately. As a result, Canada has not awarded a single Victoria Cross since it took it over in 1993. And in fact, no Canadian has been awarded a VC since 1945. This must change. There is an unprecedented grassroots movement bringing together the veteran community, including well-respected organizations such as the Royal Canadian Legion, members of the military community, municipalities, and grassroots Canadians. Together, they are calling for Private Jess LaRochelle's citation to be reviewed and to award him the Victoria Cross that he deserves. In September of 2021, you, Mr. Minister, indicated that you recognize Jess LaRochelle's sacrifice and, quote, support initiatives from the military community to ensure all those who've served our country get the recognition they deserve, unquote. With that, will you bring forward to your government colleagues and the Minister of Defense the message of tens of thousands of Canadians and what I would hope would be the unanimous support of this committee to recognize the valor of Jess LaRochelle by awarding him the Victoria Cross, and in doing so, recognizing the valor and sacrifice of our veterans and those who have served our country throughout our history?
Thank you very much, Nikki, and I can assure you Private Iraq's story is exceptional, and I'm certainly fully aware, and demonstrated unbelievable bravery in combat, and I know you're fully aware of that too. And of course, I fully support anything that the military does to make sure that folks who serve bravely receive the recognition they deserve. As you know, if the military decides to take the steps they take, you and I'm sure, will fully support any way we can, and I will make sure I support any way I can. But as you know, I'm not part of the chain of command, and it's important as a cabinet minister that I don't interfere in the responsibility of the military.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Mrs. Ashton. And now for 5 minutes, we have Mr. Fraser Tolmie.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Mr. Minister, thank you for participating tonight. I know that I don't have much time, so my questions will be quick for you. In an answer to an inquiry from your office that was requested by my colleague, Mr. Frank Caputo, the numbers of applications according to this report or this answer are increasing. And as a result, the backlog of numbers of applicants is increasing. Would you agree with the numbers that have been provided by your office?
Just touch just a minute on this.
Thank you, Minister. And yes, there were some details provided in the question from the Honorable Frank Caputo. In actual fact, the number of files that we are handling has gone down. We've put those files down by 10,000 that are waiting to be addressed, and the actual backlog, as the Minister indicated earlier in his comments, has been decreased by 40%. So as of last week, the numbers in the backlog are now down below 14,000. So it is declining. We've got more work to do.
Okay, so that answer that you've just provided doesn't jive with the answer to inquiry that I have here. And when I look at the numbers here, it says April 1st pending was 26,600 and the backlog was 11,500. When you go to July 1st, 2022, pending, the number increases by 3,000 to 29,900 and the backlog goes up to 12,900. October 1st, 2022, the numbers pending was 33,200 and the backlog was 14,400. January 1st, the projections are that it's going to be 36,500 and backlog 15,800. So is the answer that you provided, Mr. Caputo, incorrect?
No, and I might just add, no, it's not. The fact is, it's what they were answering the question, but if you check the stats, you will find out for the last number of years, the backlog has continually reduced. I've indicated quite clearly that it will continue to be reduced, but I'll let the deputy explain as to how these figures came out.
So the numbers are accurate that you are quoting, and those are numbers that project given the resources that we have at the present time. But again, as the minister has indicated.
So you're projecting that the numbers are going to be going up, the backlog and the increase in applications are going to go up. Is that what you're saying?
Based on the current resources, that is the indication. But as the minister has indicated, there is a commitment to seek further resources so that the backlog can continue to go down.
Well, you know, I'm a little bit confused because in the minister's initial speech there, he talked about in his opening statement a number of investments, and then he said additional benefits for the applicants. And then in his answer to Mr. Caputo, he talked about additional resources, and that's not been absolutely clear. We need to know what those additional benefits are, what those investments are going to be, and what those additional resources are going to be. Could you clarify that for me?
I would tell you, my friend, the fact is, what figures you have to date, the backlog has decreased. The question that you asked with the funds that are available this day, you got the figures for that. I've indicated quite clearly that we will be seeking and putting more investment into making sure that the backlog decreases. That is what the answer is to that question.
So then my question is are you in this upcoming budget going to be attributing finances and continuing to keep the employees that we have in service?
There is, and I cannot indicate what will be in the budget because it's not appropriate. But the fact is, I've indicated quite clearly that I will be seeking additional funding to make sure that we continue on the same track that we're on to reduce the backlog. That is what I said, and that is what we will do.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you, MP Tolmie. And the last intervention for this panel, it's with Mr. Darrell Sanson for 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Chair.
To see you, even if you're in PEI and we're here, Minister, appreciate your intervention and the fact that you could join us today. And I want to also welcome Paul, who is our new deputy, and we've had good conversation, and thank you both for being here today. Minister, I want to talk about the Veterans Emergency Fund, because that's a fund that we brought forward in 2018 to help veterans who were in tough situation, probably for short term, hopefully, but if no help, then it could be long term. So that fund has had a very big impact on many veterans right across this country from what I've been hearing and reading. So could you somehow describe, they can get up to $2,500. Can you describe some of the impact that you have heard and seen for these veterans? Because what was happening, they were asking, there was an emergency, but no discretionary fund. This is a program to come forward right away and support these veterans. So could you talk a little bit about our Veterans Emergency Fund?
Thank you very much, Darrell. And of course, the Veterans Emergency Fund is a very $1 million a year, vitally important to the veteran, anybody that's down and out and down on their luck and that type of thing. It has helped so many people. A veteran can receive $2,500, and so many times that you find people that are up against it totally. It might mean it could be a family in a home, it could be a mortgage, it could be whatever. But these things were put in place just to make sure, to try to help repay. You can never repay veterans for what they did, but to make sure we make life as good as we can for them. That's exactly what the emergency fund is about. And the other programs, after we use the emergency fund, can kick in order to make it much better. Thank you, Darrell.
Thank you for that answer, Minister. Also, we brought in a new education and training fund, and this is for helping veterans who, after they finish in the active armed forces, they can go back to school, and if they've done 6 years in the military, they can get up to $40,000. If they've done 12 years, they can get up to $80,000. I understand the uptake of that program is not as high as we would like, but can you see some type of correlation with the new employment strategy program? Is there a way we could design that program that would complement, if you want, this education and training benefit that is helping many veterans right across the country?
And thank you very much, Darrell. And you're fully aware that, of course, the National Veterans Employment Strategy Program, which we're working on to put in place, this, of course, can certainly work with that. And it's with the education program and everything else, what it does is make the veteran more employable. In fact, veterans can leave the military and then perhaps end up going to university. And $80,000, if you're there for 12 years, means a lot in order to become more qualified for wherever you want to go. And then, of course, the National Veterans Employment Strategy, when we get it in place, as you're fully aware, we're discussing it with the veterans and veterans groups and having their input in order to what will be put together. But the end result is combining all the programs, the the National Veterans Employment Strategy, the Education Fund, all the other programs that are in place. These programs are put in place in order to make sure the veteran has a better quality of life. And that is what your responsibility and my responsibility is. And I appreciate every person sitting at the Veterans Affairs table tonight, because everybody here wants to make it better for veterans. I do, and everybody else there does. I want to thank you so much, and we will continue to work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Darrell. Écoutez, Monsieur le Ministre.
Listen, well, Minister, on behalf of the members of this committee, I also want to thank you for participating this evening in the Standing Committee on Veterans Affairs. And also, I want to thank you for being so quickly available because we are at the very beginning of our committee meetings. So thank you again for being here. I would also like to address myself to the members. It's true that the notice of meeting said that we would end at 8:30. As we know, there were votes. But what I would like to hear you very briefly on this, we do have other guests. We have the Deputy Minister and the Acting Deputy Minister. We will take a few brief moments to do some sound checks with our interveners. I know that some of you have commitments. I propose this. Let's do the test for each person, and then we'll just have one 6-minute round per member for each party. Would you be in agreement? Would that be acceptable to you, or would you rather have a longer, complete panel? I will ask my vice chair what he thinks about my suggestion. Mr. Desilets or Mr. Caputo, what are you thinking? Thank you. Mr. Caputo.
My colleague is just trying to get my attention. If I might just speak with her very briefly, Mr. Chair, please. Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to. I have no plans. I'm not sure if my colleagues have any plans. I'm in the hands of the remainder of the committee.
So, it's up to the committee. We can stay one more hour with our, comment dirais-je, nos invités.
Our witnesses.
So are we ready? So we can go on. So, okay, so we're going to take a break, and we're going to invite those witnesses to come in, and after that, we're going to come back. So we're going to take a break for about 1 or 2 minutes. Donc, je suspends la séance.
I suspend the meeting now.
Yep.
Mr. Caputo, you would like to say something?
I apologize, Chair.
Yeah, okay, perfect. I'm going to start. We have just a second. I have to come back on the. Before speaking, please wait until I recognize your name. And when you are ready to speak, you can click on the microphone icon to activate your mic. A reminder that all comments should be addressed through the chair. Les services d'interprétation pour cette vidéo.
Interpretation for this video conference is the same as what is offered during a normal committee meeting. At the bottom of your screen, you can choose between floor, English, or French. When you speak, please speak slowly and clearly. And when you do not have the floor, mute your mic. I would like to now welcome our witnesses, Mr. Paul Ledwell, who is already with us. He is a Deputy Minister, but also Mr. Stephen Harris, Assistant Deputy Minister, Service Delivery Branch, and also Ms. Sarah Lance, Acting Assistant Deputy Minister, Chief Financial Officer, and Corporate Services Branch. So, first of all, I will advise you that I'll use these little cards to keep you aware of how much time has passed when you are speaking. And I know that you will not make any introductory remarks in your 5 minutes. So let's just move on to the first round of questioning, 6 minutes each. The first will be Mr. Frank Caputo, who will lead off the 6-minute round.
Mr. Chair, and thank you to the witnesses for joining us. Could I ask how many caseworkers are needed to approximately to bring the backlog to an expected level by the end of 2022?
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Member Caputo. Very good question. I just want to be clear that the backlog is associated with disability adjudications, which are not undertaken by case workers, but by adjudicators in that system. So we've got case workers who work with our roughly almost 16,000 veterans who are under case management. And we have workers who do adjudication. And I'll ask my colleague, Assistant Deputy Minister Harris, to speak to the specifics around the backlog and the numbers that are needed to get it down to the desired location.
So with respect to case management, Mr. Caputo, and I'd address to the chair, of course, the case management elements are no veteran waits for a case manager because there's not a backlog. And if a veteran needs a case manager, they are assigned a case manager. So that's the case manager related issue. With respect to files and disability adjudication, so if there's an application for a disability benefit, as you've noted, there are files in backlog. The minister indicated during the first hour the progress that we've made with respect to this over the course of the last period of time. We do expect to be down to about 11,500 files in a backlog situation. That is beyond the 16-week service standard that we have. That's down from about 23,000 files where we started about 2 years ago with the additional investments of resources that are there. So we do expect around April 2022 that the backlog would be in a state of about 11,500.
And how many adjudicators are needed by the end of the year to bring us within that 16-week standard?
There would be no number of adjudicators within this end of year that we could bring on and train in place to have down to that perspective, which is why it takes some time to recruit, hire, and then ultimately train and have people in place to be able to do the adjudication itself. So we continue to work amongst the resources that we currently have to be able to reduce the files that are beyond our service standard.
Is it possible then to even give an estimate as to how long this backlog will last, given that we don't know how long it will take to hire adjudicators then?
The challenge with respect to this particular issue is we don't control intake. And so the number of veterans who come forward seeking benefits varies and has varied significantly over the course of the pandemic period in particular. We've seen increases, as is noted in much of the material that has been shared with you. We've seen increases, significant increases in the amount of intake that we've seen since 2015 in particular. And while the intake has kind of varied over the last little while, our production has been able to go up with the additional resources that we do have. So forecasting it out, the resources that we have indicate that we will be in a position of trying to meet the incoming intake, but it will depend on the intake with respect to how we would forecast it out.
With respect to forecasting, the forecast now, if nothing changes, even with the additional hires, is that the backlog will increase by the end of the year, correct?
It wouldn't increase by the end of the year. Sorry, if you mean the end of the calendar year, the end of the calendar year, yes, sir. If it's the end of the fiscal year, we do expect it still to go down before the end of the fiscal year.
So it is absolutely necessary to hire more adjudicators in order to deal with the backlog, correct?
I think additional resources, sir, are always helpful. Of course, we're doing other things to try and speed up the process for veterans who apply. So in behind the scenes, we're streamlining the processes that are required to support that, making it easier for our disability adjudicators and all of the team that works on this to make decisions much more quickly. So those are additional steps that we take in addition to what resources we may have available.
Now, I understand that $638 million lapsed on the public accounts in the last fiscal year. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir. I believe that is the accurate figure.
And that money could have been used to hire more adjudicators and more caseworkers. Is that right?
Well, sir, if you would like, I'd ask Sarah Lance, my colleague, who's the Chief Financial Officer, to respond to that question.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Mr. Chair, actually, the lapse of approximately $635 million, 95% of that funding was directly voted for clients' financial benefits and services. So the department has no authority whatsoever to spend those funds on operating the department. Because they're quasi-statutory in nature, it's really just a timing difference. Those funds were not used in the last fiscal year, but they were available for use in future years.
To any of the witnesses, what in the eyes of the department is an acceptable caseload level, or the appropriate average caseload for a caseworker?
If I could, Mr. Chair, respond to that. I know that we pay a lot of attention on the quality of care that's provided through our case managers. And it's obviously measured in terms of numbers, but it's also measured in terms of the time that they're able to spend. We hear from our own case managers that they feel that a level around 30 is probably acceptable. In fact, it's the industry standard. So that's what they indicate to us.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwell, and thank you, Mr. Caputo. Excuse me, now it's the turn of Mr. Wilson Miao for 6 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm actually very new to this. It's my first term elected member also in this committee. I'd like to raise this question. I'm aware that there was 9 Veteran Affairs Canada service office reopened after being closed for more than 10 years ago. And taking into account that the fact that demand had dropped due to a pandemic, how many veterans and family members sought service through these services since they're reopened? And even if they're unable to go to these offices in person due to the pandemic, can veterans obtain services through these offices at the same time? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much, member, for the question. And you're correct. We do have 38 Veterans Affairs offices and 31 transition centers located on Canadian Air Force bases across the country. So 69 unique locations from which our 188,000 clients are served. So obviously through this last period of time, none of those offices have been open during the pandemic. but the presence in those areas and the service towards veterans and their families in those locations has been essential to ensure that that level of service is there. Virtually, it is responsive. People are reaching out to veterans that we know may have needs, and they are able to get a response very quickly. So we have in all of those locations very active staff, frontline staff who are there to respond and to answer the needs of veterans. They are doing that from home locations and remote working, but they are doing that in the communities in which those veterans are living as well. So that presence is very important.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to also share my time with my colleague, Mr. Casey, on his questions, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Casey.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Thank you, Mr. Mayo. Did I understand you correctly, Mr. Ledwell, when you indicated that every single veteran that requires a case manager is assigned a case manager?
That is correct.
And did I understand you correctly that the number of case managers has absolutely nothing to do with the backlog?
That is correct.
And just for the benefit of the committee, the case managers within Veterans Affairs are represented by a different union than the disability adjudicators. Is that right?
For the most part, that's correct. Yes.
Okay. The projections that were provided to Mr. Caputo assumed that the level of resourcing would be exactly the same as it is now through the period of the projection, so through the calendar year. Is that right?
That's right.
And in fact, if you are given the approvals to add resources, that is your intention?
If we are given more resources, that will certainly address those numbers and will allow us to bring that backlog down.
And can you give us some sense for the likelihood that you will, in fact, be allocated additional resources?
It's difficult for us to say that, member, very clearly. We certainly are making the case. I think the track record of investment around these resources, the understanding of the importance of it, as has been articulated by all members of this committee, and the past commitments to resourcing this particular need gives us some hope, but we don't have the confirmation of resources yet, and that will only come through the budgeting process.
Thank you. Is it still the case that of the entire budget within the Department of Veterans Affairs, about 10% is used to salaries and overhead, and 90% flows directly through to the veterans?
The figure is actually less than that. Approximately 7% of the entire allocation is for administration and operations, and 93% roughly is there to support veterans directly.
Ms. Lance answered the question perfectly, but I just to make it crystal clear. So when we see funding lapsed that is earmarked to go directly to veterans, you do not have the discretion to take that fund, those monies, and allocate them to salaries?
No, they're absolutely safeguarded to ensure that the funding is there for when the veteran comes forward and is eligible for that funding.
Thank you. There was raised during the last election campaign the prospect of streamlining Veterans Affairs benefits with the Department of National Defense. Is that an initiative currently being worked through within the department?
There's active work with the National Defense on coordinating the assurance that there are supports for those who are transitioning out of active service and becoming veterans. But there's nothing specific right now to look at the further alignment of those supports and resources in any formal way.
Thank you. Can you give us an update on the renovation and revitalization of the Daniel J. McDonald building?
10 seconds, please.
It is happening very soon. It is going to be a state-of-the-art facility. It will have a very low carbon footprint, will be fully accessible to a level unseen before.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwell. Et là, passons donc pour...
And the six next minutes belong to Mr. Luc Desilets. You have the floor, sir. Thank you, sir. Mr. Harris, I'm very happy to see you again, Deputy Minister. We talked on December 2nd about the gap between Anglophones and Francophones, 41.2 weeks of waiting for Francophone files and 32.2 for Anglophones. Is it the same thing? Yes, I was quite surprised by these figures, sir, and I can tell you it is a major challenge for the whole process for all veterans, Anglophones, Francophones, men, women, and our goal is to have a smoother process. I understand. I would have liked Mr. Harris, but Mr. Ledwell, I like you too. But there's still this gap of 9 weeks? No, the gap now is 6 weeks, more or less, during the previous months. And during the 3 months, October, November, December, it was 3 weeks. So it's gotten better. Well, I'm happy to hear that. And I hope that earlier, when we asked the minister for figures, I'm sure you're aware that there was a difficulty. There is some discrepancy between the figures that we get here, there, and everywhere. Do you find that this is Francophone, Anglophone gap is normal and adequate? Well, it's not acceptable. We're trying to react more quickly to improve the situation, and this is an effort that we are making now. Perhaps Mr. Harris has something to add to that. Thank you, Mr. Ledwell. Of course, we are making an effort, and we are getting better. As the minister said, we are addressing this gap between Anglophone and Francophone applications, and have done so over the past months. And now we have trained and equipped people to respond quickly to these. That will continue to be the case. Perfect. We're all here for the well-being of veterans, of course. Do you think that you will achieve parity, equity between Francophones and Anglophones, and when will that be? That's a good question. Well, what we have in our files now are Francophone applications that have been there for a very long time. When we make a decision, it has an impact on the average wait time. It's very difficult to determine when we will reach a gap which will be entirely eliminated between Francophone and Anglophone applications. Well, soon as when? When you would like to have the equivalent when you're Francophone. In coming months. You're saying in the coming months. Well, I'm very happy to hear that, and I do hope that we will be able to address that fact. I've finished, Chair. If you want to give the floor to my colleague, no problem here. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Desilets, for your intervention.
Last round of questions. I would like to invite Mrs. Rachel Blaney for 6 minutes, please. Please go ahead.
Well, thank you so much, Chair. It's very nice to see all of you and, of course, to meet Mr. Ledwell. I always enjoy our conversations. The first question, actually, it's more of a request. I'm just wondering if you could commit to providing to the committee the proportion of workers that are former veterans or veterans themselves, I should say, or former Corrections Canada workers. That would be really helpful. Is there any way that we could get that information?
Certainly, thank you, Mr. Chair, and Madame Blaney. We can provide you with the detail on the veterans. That's something that we ask. Obviously, it's self-identified. I will have to check about those who are former correction services and whether we can share that information, but I will look into that.
Thank you so much. So one of the things that I'm really curious is I did put a question into the department and received a response not too long ago. And I guess what is concerning to me is that we know that in this country we do have a Veterans Bill of Rights, and that when you read that Bill of Rights, it's very clear that it applies to every veteran who are clients of VAC. So I was a little surprised when we put in our request and found out that although there is an extensive amount of training that is happening for VAC employees, they are not being trained in any way about the Bill of Rights, what that means and what their responsibilities are pertaining to that particular document. And I'm just wondering, it seems to me that it makes sense that especially in the position of a case manager, they should understand what that is and how to deliver those services in a particular manner. So I guess I have two questions. The first one is, what is the purpose of the Bill of Rights if it's just there as a document that cannot be actually used in a meaningful way? And the second one is there any process within VAC that if a veteran who is being provided services feels that his Bill of Rights or her Bill of Rights or they's Bill of Rights have been not acknowledged and not represented, is there a process for them to move forward with an official complaint?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and again, thank you for the question. I think, Madame Blaney, there's a tremendous amount of training that goes in, and my colleague, Mr. Harris, referred to the training that we undertake for new staff who are especially interfacing with veterans. And that's something that we take very, very seriously. So in addition to public service training and issues like values and ethics, there's a lot of training that is very specific to the importance of the way that our staff comport themselves in their interaction with veterans. Included in that will be all of the fundamental aspects, including the Bill of Rights, that are important for our staff members to understand. So I would be surprised if there's not reference to that in the general training that transpires. In terms of a mechanism by which a veteran can raise a question, yes, we have several of those. And I'll ask Mr. Harris and Ms.
So
Lance
before you go, I'm so sorry to interrupt, and I apologize through the chair, but I just want to clarify that I asked a question and it was very clear in the response that I got, and I just got it yesterday. So I'm happy to send that back to you. It came from the department itself that said at no point is this training put into place. So I completely embrace the idea that as part of a particular type of training, that would be part of it. So it may not be called training on the Bill of Rights for veterans, but I need to push back on that through you, Mr. Chair, because when we got that response, there was a very clear message that that is not an official part of the training. So again, it's a document. It's something that is a commitment to veterans, and I'm just wondering, like, how is it not taught to folks that are doing that working? And that's, not me criticizing in any way the amazing people that serve our veterans every day. I really appreciate it. But if that's not part of the training, that's not their problem. It's really an upper management problem. But the other part, I just want to go back to it, is there not a process for veterans who feel that their rights have been trampled on, and that they have this document that assures them that there will be a certain criteria of how those services are provided to them? Is there no process for them to move forward that includes this? Because I think, I'm hearing about it a lot, and we've talked about it in this committee about sanctuary trauma, that, veterans are coming, they are asking for help, and then they're turning away. And I talked about Roy earlier today. And years years of trauma, 10 years of him saying, please, this is wrong, please fix it. And because of his particular trauma, not able to move forward, to the point where if somebody from Veterans Affairs sent him a message, he can't even look at that because he's traumatized by what has happened. So I'm just wondering if you could come back to this. And I just, again, want to clarify, we asked the question, we were told that it is not part of the training.
We'll certainly look into that aspect of it, Madame Blaney, Mr. Chair, if you'd allow me, and verify what information was provided back to you. In terms of sources whereby a veteran can come back and raise issues, raise questions about the way that they're being interfaced, we have several mechanisms to do that built into our system. And again, I'll ask Mr. Harris just to indicate that from a service delivery perspective where we interact with most of our clients.
Thank you so much. Merci, Monsieur Ledwell. Merci.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwell. Thank you. This was the last intervention, as was agreed. Is it the pleasure of the members of the committee to adjourn this meeting? Yes, thumbs up. Agreed. Let me please take the time to thank our witnesses. And we have with us Mr. Paul Ledwell, Deputy Minister, Stephen Harris, Assistant Deputy Minister, and Ms. Sarah Lenz, Acting Assistant Deputy Minister from the Finance and Material Services. I thank the members of the committee, the staff, and also the interpreters. On that being said, this meeting is adjourned. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Chair.